Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty.
Good morning, Bellows Falls and Keene. It's Mike.
Good morning.
Yes, Mike in the morning. Here we are with Mike and Marty on the feed. We got a new puppy last night, and I got about an hour's sleep. So we're in the. And it's going to be an interesting show. We're here with Peter Simoneaux today. And we're going to be talking music and the music scene. But first, before we continue, we want to let everyone know that this show is broadcast live from the Fact TV studios in Bellows Falls. Fact TV is a community access center and provides studio space and production services free of charge to the community members in Southern Vermont and Keene. If you're interested in creating your own show, already producing content, or wish to submit it, or want to stay informed about the news and events of Southern Vermont and Keene, including live coverage of local town meetings, sporting events, and community events, visit fact8.com.
I am so happy you drew the short straw and you have to do that long.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. So, local events. This week at the Bellows Falls Opera House, it is week number 3 of Deadpool and Wolverine. And I'm seriously hoping we get to go see it this weekend because
I know, it's supposed to be really
Deadpool
good.
Fan. Love it. Love it. He's totally inappropriate. It's totally silly. But anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine, last chance to see it. It's going to be there through August 13th, which is a Tuesday. The classic movie is truly a classic this week. I mean, they're all classics, but this is like 70s classic. What's Up, Doc? With Barbara Streisand
That is.
and Ryan O'Neal. And that's sponsored by Greater Falls Insurance. And I watched a bit of the preview for it, and it's funny to go back and watch 70s movies now. They look funny. This Friday night down at the Putney Inn Field is part of the Bandwagon series. We had Richard here last week. Keith. Sorry.
Keith.
Richard Marks is the musician. Keith is the director of Next Stage. We talked a lot about the series and everything last week. It's Slavic Soul Party.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good one.
That's going to be a good one.
That's going to be a good
They
one.
are great.
Introducing and speaking, we got a music theme going here today.
Yeah,
I
I'm
didn't
liking
realize
this.
it until just now. Happening starting this month out in Saxon River at the Saxon River Park. They're doing a series called Sunday Music. On the 18th, they will have the Moondogs. On September 15th, they will have Swing Low. On September 29th, it's Main Street Art String Band. All of the performances are free. And I just realized I did not put the time down, but I'm hoping the time is on the flyer that y'all are looking at right now. And I just wanted to also remind people that the farmers market happens every Friday afternoon at Hetty Green Park. It's in full swing. It's small. It's a small farmers market, but they have some really quality vendors there. And they have some great food vendors. We went, didn't feel like cooking last Friday night, they had 2 food vendors. They had, I can't remember the names, but anyway, one of the food vendors had egg rolls, like homemade egg rolls, and the other food vendor had like barbecue. And so between the 2 food vendors, came
You
up
could
with
do
a
a nice
really
meal,
nice
yeah.
dinner for $20. $20, a super dinner for the 2 of us. So encourage people to go to the farmers market. We are going to continue our conversation with music with Peter Simoneaux. But if you want to see that, you are going to need to go to fact8.com to see the rest of the show. Welcome, Peter.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is really neat. I'm surprised we haven't had you before because you're
Well,
such a
what's the deal with
such
that?
a force.
It is our mistake, 100%.
Well, that's okay. It's good to be here.
So, how many bands are you in or do you manage? I know of 3.
It's really, it's kind of a floating number. I want to say 3 bands that are directly under my leadership and control. Our flagship band, I say ours, meaning myself and my wife Linda. Bayou X is our flagship band. It's the band that gives us the greatest freedom to play all the different sorts of music that we like. And it's our primary vehicle for our own original songwriting. And Bayou X plays mostly Southern, what I call Southern roots music. I'm from New Orleans, and we play traditional Cajun music from Southwest Louisiana, Creole Zydeco music from Southwest Louisiana, New Orleans music from the city of New Orleans, and people often get those confused. They think Cajun music is like the Meters and the Neville Brothers and all kinds of stuff like that, which is just not true. Jazz, and people just mush it all together. And we play in Bayou X also a lot of what I would call Afro diasporic music, which is basically everything. Anywhere Africans and Europeans have come together and created something new. So that meld of music and cultures really informs the music of New Orleans very, very profoundly, and really kind of pretty much informs all popular music in the United States at one level or another, and throughout much of the world. So that's Bayou X. It's a very eclectic band, high energy, all amplified instruments, drums, electric bass, electric guitar, fiddle, and accordion. I say accordions because my wife plays now 3 or 4 or more different styles of accordions.
And isn't that unique to Cajun music also, is that there are different accordions for different keys almost? Or?
Well, the Cajun accordion, we call it Cajun accordion these days, it's actually German accordion. 1 row, diatonic, 4 stops, which means 4 sets of reeds inside of it, has a very big fat sound, and it plays, basically it's like a harmonica on steroids. You get one note when you push and a different note when you pull, and just the action of constantly push and pull makes it a highly rhythmical instrument. And it's the signature instrument in Cajun music, also in much of Creole Zydeco music, and also music from Quebec and Irish music, although it's very strong in Quebecois music. The exact same single row diatonic button accordion is what they prefer in Quebec. And so beyond that, those are the main places where those instruments are played. But it also shows up in the Caribbean, especially in the island of Martinique, which is very interesting, which is French and has a connection to South Louisiana just by way of the trade routes.
One of the little known but interesting Mike facts was after the American Revolution, the people from Quebec migrated down and went to...
Well, actually, it wasn't the people from Quebec. It was the people from the maritime provinces of Nova Scotia who were the Acadians. That province was referred to at that time as Acadia. And so the Acadians, after they were kicked out of the Maritimes by the British, they were sent all over the place, and it didn't happen right away. It took the better part of 20 or 25 years for all of those people who were scattered to the winds to start to migrate to South Louisiana. That was mainly done...
I was going to say, I'm just going to sit here because he loves history and that type of stuff. So I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, and y'all can keep... No, you guys, you could go 2 shows.
Anyway, we haven't gotten past Bayou X yet. Your original question was how many bands are in. So in addition to Bayou X, we have a traditional Cajun band that plays pretty much exclusively old-time Cajun music. From a span from the late 1920s up to the end of the 1960s. It doesn't really matter at this point. It all goes through a lot of different changes, but it's really identifiable as what people in Louisiana call traditional Cajun music. That is back-of-town Cajun band. And the personnel of the band is it's almost identical to Bayou X, with the exception of we have a different guitar player in Back of Town. Michael Padavina plays acoustic guitar in Back of Town, which is the most common configuration for Cajun music: acoustic guitar, fiddle, and accordion. So that's the nut of that band. It gives us an opportunity to play just as an acoustic trio for gigs that don't need one whole band. And that is like the heart of Cajun music. And then when we want to, we just drop in our drummer and our bass player for Bayou X. If we want 4-piece with a bass but no drums, we do that. If we want the whole band, then we bring Ben Carr or someone else in, Jim McNutt on drums, and gives us a lot of flexibility. In fact, just this month, we were supposed to play the Bonneville Fair.
Okay.
The Bonneville Fair at the end of the month with Bayou X, and our guitar player in Bayou X, Bob Everingham, who plays electric guitar, not acoustic, sent me an email saying, "Oh, Pete, I messed up. I've got to drive my kid down to North Carolina. I'm not going to be able to do this gig." And as opposed to saying, "Oh, shit, I have to cancel the gig. Can't do it without him." Bob is really he's the linchpin of Bayou X, in the same way that Mike is the linchpin of Back of Town. We just flipped the gig over to Back of Town.
There you go.
Yeah.
I said, "Mike, are you available?" Right? And he said, "Yeah, I'm available." Okay, well, that solves that problem. Because the rest of the band is the same. So that's you asked about gigs. That gig is going to be on Sunday, August 25th.
Okay.
Sunday, August
At the
25th.
Bonneville Fair.
Bonneville Fair from noon to 2 p.m. And it's going to be our first opportunity to play in front of an audience with Rick Contino on pedal steel guitar.
Oh.
And this is this is going to be a new thing for Bayou X. Not for Bayou X, for Back of Town, that we're very excited about, because our regular guitar player, Mike Padavina, on acoustic guitar, is a very, very busy guy, and he likes to travel and go to a lot of festivals. And there are a fair number of instances where he's not available to play. And once we break in Rick on pedal steel into the group, then we have an option for going out and playing without Mike, with just pedal steel guitar as opposed to acoustic guitar and the rest of the band. And that is going to give us a completely different sound. That's going to put us in the dance hall era of Cajun music, as opposed to the back porch era, house dance era of Cajun music. So, there's always this flux going on between the different groups, interchange between the musicians, that keeps it interesting. So that's two bands, Back of Town and Bayou X. Then, in a completely different department, we do have a New Orleans-style brass band called Celebration Brass Band that we've been running now for about 15 years. And that was just a thing where we were going through a state of change with what is now Bayou X, which was then called Low Orphans Cajun Express. And we had some musicians drop out of the band. We were in the process of recruiting other musicians. And I'm being from the city of New Orleans, I've always had a deep affinity for New Orleans brass band music, which used to be very traditional and old time. But in the early 80s, in the mid-70s and early 80s, it started becoming much more modern and dynamic and influenced by funk and a lot of and jazz and all kinds of different genres. And younger musicians started making it modern. And so I always thought it would be fun to have a band like that up here. And there are lots of good horn players. And but the one thing we lacked was a sousaphone player. A sousaphone, if you don't know what that is, it's what people refer to as the tuba. Tuba is literally a different instrument. Tuba is smaller. The bell points straight up. the sousaphone is the big instrument you see marching bands play. It hangs over the shoulder. It has a huge bell that points right at your face.
They don't come a
it's
dime a dozen.
there are not a lot of sousaphones
No, that's true.
or a lot of sousaphone players around outside high school marching bands, of which this is not the hotbed of
No, it
high
is
school marching
not.
bands either, for that matter. But in any case, I was playing. So in addition to fiddle is my main instrument in most of these bands, but I've also long been a percussionist, and I came into music through African music in Philadelphia in the early '80s, and so I've always liked to play percussion. Have a fair amount of training at that. And I always thought it'd be fun to play snare in a New Orleans style brass band, but we had a lot of horn players, but no sousaphone. Cannot have an authentic sounding New Orleans brass
really need that
band
bottom.
without sousaphone. And so we were parading with a samba group at the 4th of July parade in Brattleboro. I want to say this was 2008, maybe. It was a long parade. By the time we got up go all the way from the high school in south side of Brattleboro all the way up to the Commons.
That's a long way.
It's a long
That's a
parade, and
long
I was
way.
carrying a pretty heavy drum. And by the time we got up to the Commons, I was like totally
realize
gassed.
that
I was
parade was that long.
like, throw my drum down on the grass, and I'm like, oh my God, that was rough. And I look up, and all of a sudden, behind us, here comes this guy, Tim Ellis, playing the sousaphone. And this guy
You were
really
like,
did. Whoa, a sousaphone! I got up and I ran up to him. I said, "Hey, man, my name's Pete. Who are you? And are you interested? I want to put together this New Orleans style brass band. Are you interested in playing in our brass band?" And he said, yeah, sure. I'd like that. Sounds like fun. I said, "Do you know the music about it?" "Nah, not so much." I'm like, "Can I start giving you tapes and links to the music?" And yeah. So we exchanged information, and he started listening to the music. And about 6 months later, we actually started to put the band together with Bill Shantz, who's a well-known musician on clarinet, Dan DeWalt on trombone, Walter Slawinski, and Ron Kelly on saxophones, and the band. Those guys are still the heart of the band today. And I ended up playing bass drum in the band rather than snare, because I found I was better at bass drum than snare.
Harder to carry though in a parade.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But and bass drum is heavy. It's heavy. So, but in any case, I like it. I just connect with that bass beat. That's the heartbeat of the music, and I feel like that's what I need to be doing, is providing a heartbeat for the music. And then it turned out over time that my wife, Linda, who's a very multi-talented musician and artist, she always wanted to play the sousaphone in particular.
Really?
She's a dancer. We're both dancers.
Yeah.
And she had wanted to be a belly dancing sousaphone player. Okay? That was just always her fantasy,
ambition.
right?
That is
so
ambition.
for our 25th wedding anniversary, I started looking around, and I found a sousaphone for her. So I surprised her on her 25th wedding anniversary with the sousaphone at a big party that we had in our house. There's a lot of people there, and I had some friends, a particular friend who is a tuba player from down in Massachusetts, to bring the instrument up and present it to her.
Nice.
And it was hilarious because he handed her the instrument, and she put it on, and she said, "I don't know what to do." He said, "Well, just put your belly to," and so she started blowing the instrument, and she was blowing notes, and then she started belly dancing with the instrument on her, and she actually went back, got down on her knees, and went on her back with the sousaphone on, playing the instrument.
Wow.
And Kevin Smith, who brought the instrument up to us, was just like, whoa! I never saw anybody do that in my life. So it's the beginning of a great thing. So now Linda's role in the brass band is twofold. If we need her on sousaphone, she plays sousaphone, and she's kind of our parade expert on sousaphone because she doesn't really need the music in front of her. She's an ear musician, and she does not get flustered. You know, even if she, oh shoot, I don't remember how this tune goes, I'm gonna just hear it play something that feels and sounds right.
Yeah.
Right?
Wonderful.
And so, and if she's not playing sousaphone, because we do have still in the mix our original sousaphone player, Tim Ellis. If Tim is playing sousaphone, then Linda will be out in front of the band as parade marshal, which is a traditional thing in New Orleans.
Yes,
Music, you got the guy out in front of the band with the umbrella, whatever, leading the band, trying to get the crowds to separate out the way. And she also does some singing in front of the band if we're doing a stage performance. So that's Celebration Brass Band.
So that's the three bands.
Those are
And
three
then-
bands. And then the fourth band that's happening right now is still kind of in its infancy, a couple of years running now. It's the samba group that we play with under the umbrella of the Vermont Jazz Center. It's called Samba Gonza, and right now it's exclusively drum and vocal group.
Right.
But we're trying hard to bring more instrumental music into the group for presentation purposes, so that it's not just all, percussion, bateria, drumming.
Yeah.
Is that connected to, is Eugene still at?
Oh yeah, Eugene Newman is still the director of the Vermont Jazz Center, very much so. He and Elsa
Awesome.
have recently received some really nice awards and recognition for the work they do. And Eugene and Elsa are very, very close friends of ours, I'm proud
Right.
to say. So those are mainly what we're doing in the band now. Linda is also playing again in Jay Cook's reformulated, reconstituted band. It does not yet have a proper name.
Oh.
The band yet to be named. They were calling
That's
it
a nice
informally.
name.
They were informally calling it the Reboot band. But I was on the internet just yesterday.
Oh, and there's
looking
another-
up. There's like about a half a dozen
Yeah,
Reboot
yeah,
bands
yeah.
in various parts of the country. So I'm going to tell them, hey guys, I've got to come up with a name now. But this band used to be, originally was an Afrobeat band, a big 10, 12 piece band with a lot of the best musicians in the region. And she was one of three lead singers playing, all female, being the front line and playing percussion, shakeré and whatever. And they were a very dynamic group. Band had a good run of 3 or 4 years, and then it had to be tapered down in size, just as a matter of practicality. So Jay, he cut the band about in half and renamed it VT Shakedown. And then he's got another variation of it that I forget exactly what he called. But anyway, Jay Cook is a profoundly important person in the Brattleboro music scene. He's been a band leader for going on 30 years or whatever. And he had a catastrophic brain hemorrhage about a little less than 2 years ago. And people didn't think he was going to survive.
Wow.
But he did, and has been recuperating since then. And,
We only have about 2 minutes left.
oh, wow.
I
So
know, we only
it
got
becomes
through two
imperative
of your
that you're going to have
bands.
to come back.
Okay,
Uh,
well, I mean,
so-
we could do that.
Yeah, I would like you to do a show and specifically about each of the bands and their speciality, because it is a true education.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just gonna. If you're looking for a good time, if you like to dance, if you like to party, any place that Peter's playing or one of his bands is playing is the place to go. I've seen him at Chow Popolo. I've seen him at Pizza Stone. I've seen him in Putney. I've seen him at the parade in Saxon's River. And it's a party. They just an incredible
we like to
force
break
of
the party.
energy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the culture I come from. I'll just say our next gig coming up, next public gig, is going to be on Saturday, the 17th of August
Okay.
at the Be Well Homestead out in Jamaica, Vermont. It's literally
that'd be cool.
just past the entrance to Jamaica State Park. And it's a family-owned operation. They have a CSA. They have all kinds of family events, yoga classes, and stuff for children and adults. And they have live music in the summertime every Saturday night. So we're there in another 2 weeks on Saturday night from 6 to 9. Bayou X. Yeah, the regular, normal lineup of Bayou X without anyone missing. So and then the following weekend after that, Sunday afternoon at the Bonneville Fair.
Okay,
Right back to
good.
Cajun Band. So
Well, thank you for coming on. I hope you'll come back.
Thanks for
Now
having
that
us.
we've
I've
got
took
to
a-
know each other, this is great. And that's all the time we have. We'll see you next week. Mike and Marie.
Bye.
Bye.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music.